With how much cleanup there is in these games, you would really expect that Samus would have hired a janitor by this point. Welcome back to AM2R. As you might have guessed, this is the cleanup episode. We have a ton of items throughout the game that we never really got because we just couldn't do it at the time. But now not only do we have all of the items that we could possibly need for this, but the distribution center itself has a wonderfully convenient little hub that takes us right back to all of these old areas. And it's done pretty cleverly too, I would say, because these areas have always existed. And if you were going around bombing every single surface that you possibly could, you would have found them. Sort of. You would have found screw attack blocks that would have indicated there was something there, but you wouldn't have been able to do anything. So I mean, I guess technically we could have come and done all of this, once we got the screw attack immediately, but it just seemed more appropriate to deal with the rest of the distribution center first. Now what I'm doing right here is one of the harder items to get during cleanup, I would say. You thought the Shine Spark puzzles in Fusion and Zero Mission were bad. Oh boy. Essentially, beyond this super missile door is a wall of power bomb blocks and a wall of speed booster blocks. We obviously cannot charge a Shine Spark within this room, so we need to bring one from outside. And then we need to lay a power bomb while we have the Shine Spark charged to get rid of the power bomb blocks, because we can't go speed boosting through them. The speed booster blocks are behind them. So it's tricky timing, and it is kind of tough. You might have to recharge your Shine Spark once or even twice to keep it going while the power bomb is exploding. The other key to doing it is to keep in mind that you can recharge a Shine Spark if you spark into a slope, which is something that a couple of places in the game are going to require us to do. So if you don't know how to do that, you're going to be in for a crash course. Just going to say that much. But where we're headed right now, we've actually been here before. You might remember this room, but you might also remember that we couldn't actually do anything here before. But now we can, because there's an energy cell here. When we activated all of the energy cells to be distributed throughout the, distribution center, we didn't just activate them there. Those robots that we saw flying out when we did that, they went around delivering energy cells to the entire planet, or at least this entire tunnel system. So anytime you might have seen one of those energy receptacles, that was for one of those energy cells. Gotta say, it's nice that we can finally do something with them, because when I first played this game, they really bothered me. But then, of course, when I finally got to the distribution center and saw, oh, that's what those are for, it's a nice feeling when something like that clicks in your head and you finally know what to do with them. Those aha moments are something that I think this game does pretty well. And with that, we've collected everything that there was that we missed in Area 3, which means it's time for us to head back the way we came. Like I said, at the distribution center there are a number of different, okay, so they're basically warp pipes. Let's not even mince words here. But like I said, there are a lot of them, and they will take us to pretty much every area in the game, or at least all the major checkpoints, I would say. Like, look at us, we're back in Area 4 now. And as you might have recalled, there was in fact a screw attack block wall down here that I made sure to point out when we could. And there's something for us. A missile tank. Not exactly the most exciting thing, but there we go. What's even more exciting is another warp pipe that'll take us to Area 2. Yeah, they're not all just located in the distribution center. Some of these areas are interconnected even. Now I will say there is one warp pipe in the game that I will not be taking, which I believe I actually just passed it in that room with the water. If you screw attack into the left wall, you will find one there. I didn't go in there because it's useless to us. We can't do anything with it. We are blocked off on the other side, and you will know why later. But as for the rest of Area 2, we have an energy cell to get to its receptacle down at the very, very bottom of this shaft, and This is one of the more annoying energy cells to escort. Like, all of these energy cells are basically escort missions, but at least they're not terrible. The worst part of it, honestly, is just getting out of that initial stretch of the spiked shaftway there, because then it's just a matter of dealing with like the missile physics and all that to get it into its slot. And here, this is an interesting Shine Spark puzzle, because we have to shoot a super missile very precisely there so we actually have enough space to run across all those crumble blocks to charge a Shine Spark, and then be able to get to that super missile, because if we shoot at the wrong place, the blocks below all of those super missile blocks get destroyed and don't respawn, so we just kind of have to try again. Now, this upcoming item up here, actually I think it's 2 of them, I'm not entirely sure. Well, we'll find out in a moment. This is devious. I never thought in my first playthrough to come back to the breeding grounds here of all places to find another item that I had been missing, but yeah, this one's actually not too bad to probably accidentally find. Okay, it is 2 of them. There's a power bomb, because there are screw attack blocks in the main area that we are about to pop back into, so you will at least be able to know that something is there, and once you get screw attack, you can go in, see, oh, this is above this place, I can go down and probably do something there. So that's at least not super duper mean, just a little mean. So I suppose now is a good time as any to talk about how this game handles backtracking and the cleanup process as a whole. It's interesting, because the layout of the original Metroid 2 really didn't encourage or even foresee a ton of backtracking to older areas. It was a much more linear experience. And to its benefit, I would say, considering the limitations of the Game Boy and what they were having to work with for that. But of course, this is AM2R. It doesn't have the same limitations as the Game Boy games, and it can expect people to backtrack because it implements a way for that to feel natural. All of these fast travel points that we're using have been in the game, we just couldn't use them without the screw attack. So even though there are fast travel points involved, it feels much less like a, oh, and here's the place where you can go to suddenly get to this area that you couldn't before. Because, I mean, you could very feasibly manually backtrack all the way to these old areas on foot, but that doesn't feel nearly as satisfying as the process of get a new item. This item allows you to access a new room or new areas, and those new areas give you access to old areas. It doesn't feel so much like just having a bunch of scattered fast travel points. Even though, at its heart, that is what the warp pipes are for. They're just a collection of fast travel points. It feels better because instead of going to like these points in the areas that we've already seen and been to, we're going to these hidden places within the areas, so it feels more like a discovery. And I know what you're probably thinking. Yes, Samus Returns did do the thing where it had just fast travel points all throughout the game, and you essentially just collected them as you were going along. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that system is bad. I think it's a matter of context and of the design of the world. Because, compared to AM2R, Samus Returns map is huge. There is a lot more to each area than there is to AM2R, and whether or not you think the size of the world is a problem or not, that fast travel system does work better for that design of the world, because there is so much more to it. There are so many more places of interest that having multiple points within each area to be able to fast travel to is just so much more convenient. And in addition to that, Samus Returns encourages the use of the fast travel outside of just the cleanup section of the game. It encourages it throughout the entire thing when you're exploring within the areas themselves, which I think is another piece of context that really needs to be addressed there for why that system is used. But this is moving a lot further away from AM2R itself than I had originally wanted, so let's get back to it because we're about to do one of the hardest rooms in the entire game, in my opinion. This is probably the biggest Shine Spark puzzle in the entire game, and honestly, I wish there were more of them, which maybe is a controversial statement. I know some people hate these puzzles. I fucking love them, honestly. Honest to God, love these things. So, there's a lot of slopes, there's a lot of places where we need to screw attack, there's a lot of places where we need to charge through the wall, there's a lot of places where I'm gonna screw up and need to, go back and get my charge again. I love it. Like, these rooms are part of what makes me love the 2D Game Boy Advance Metroid games, is just this whole chaining these long Shine Sparks together, working them through these rooms full of slopes and weird places and weird tricks that you need to do, like the morph ball speed boosting and all that. I just love Speed Booster so much! It's just a shame that we're already done here. I seriously wish there were more of these kinds of rooms. I don't care if that makes me a freak. If that's wrong, then I don't want to be right. But with that done, we're actually done with all the past area cleanup by this point. We've collected every single item that there is outside of Area 5 itself and beyond. And there are a few items beyond this place, but not that many. We're pretty much done with the item collecting for most of the game. There's just like one more thing left to get here and then a handful of things in the rest of the game. Which, in fairness, is fairly true to the original game in its own way. After the tower in the original game, there really wasn't anything else to collect except for one specific item that I'll bring up when we get to it. From here on out, it's just going to be just about navigating the main tunnels and killing the rest of the Metroids. And I think that pacing decision is one of the reasons why Area 5 in this game exists in the first place. As I've said before, it allows the upgrades to be spaced out a little more naturally than they would be if they just kept to the same number of areas as the original game. Like, could you imagine trying to shove the gravity suit, the ice beam, the screw attack, all of that stuff where Area 4 already is, with the tower, with the power bombs, with the plasma beam, with all that? It would be a mess, pacing-wise. This missile's always tricky for me to get. There's a tell for it with the pipe that I went for. You have to be just, like, past a little bit where the two connect. It's much harder for me to describe than it is for you just to look at, but you can go back and see where I Shine Sparked up it's not too hard of a tell. And because we actually have the ice beam, we can get out of here, which is nice. That right there, that wall, and one coming up, I believe, pretty much guarantees that you will have found the ice beam before you try to head on further in the game, which is good, because, again, we need it to actually beat the damn thing. And this area down here will heavily encourage you to have one of either the screw attack or the power bombs to actually make any sort of progress, although I want to say there's an alternate pathway somewhere. But with that, that's all we're going to do for this episode. Next time on AM2R, do you ever just feel like you're caught in a loop? Maybe it's my imagination. See you guys next time.